morning. My name is Jason Fabrizio. Today I'll be talking about directional questioning, or the aspects of a question. Today's agenda will include the introduction, talking about my research question, essentially why I got into this topic. It'll also include the methodology, how I approached my topic, how I found my answers, found my research. I also want to include my results and this analysis of them, and then connect them really to the real world. This topic is very limited when it comes to outside sources, and I want to see how that could connect to the real world depending on whether it's for work or for everyday life. And then finally, speaking about my conclusion. In terms of this topic, my thesis statement is, how do the individual aspects of a question, including tone, facial expression, and body language, affect the response, and how can that be used to direct a conversation? Whether that's pushing someone towards answering the question a certain way, or withdrawing certain information from your interviewee. Methodology that I chose is something I like to call action and reaction. Essentially where I ask you a question during a conversation, and I want to see how you react to that question. Now I'm going to be doing that repeatedly with the same question, but I will actually be changing the different variations of the question besides just the word choice with the aspects that I said earlier. First question will be, how was your day? It's a simple conversation, it's something used in every day. It's going to be starting off with the base, which is most likely just eye contact, simple smile, nice positive tone. And then the four variations are no eye contact, no smiling, smiling, or doing something else while talking to you. These four variations will be included for all other questions to keep it constant, including what did you do in school today, given that all of the interviewees are high schoolers. What do you plan on doing after school? What have you eaten so far today? What will you have for dinner? And what time are you going to bed? The results of these, for variation one of no eye contact, was a negative reaction. When speaking to them and I refused to give them eye contact, the person initially giving eye contact, positive body language, disengaged from me. They often seemed uninterested in what they were talking about. The answers got shorter because they cared less about what I had to say. When in terms of variation two, no smiling, it's pretty much similar but not the same. It was more of a neutral reaction. Smiling isn't really necessary in conversation, so it didn't really negatively affect my interviewees. Although they didn't give me negative tone or disengagement, they did give me monotone answers. The answers were about the normal as the base, about the same word count, same words per minute. But there wasn't a lot of emotion behind it. There wasn't a lot of engagement or interest in it. When it came to variation three of smiling, there was actually a positive reaction. Their body language leaned closer. They moved their hands more. They seemed more engaged in what I had to say. And honestly, they went on longer than they did with the base question. They spoke more in detail. They spoke with more critical thinking. And in terms of variation four of doing something else, such as maybe typing a homework assignment or taking notes at some times, it also got a negative reaction, but it got more of a rude tone. When doing something else while speaking to someone, they found that it was incredibly disrespectful. They thus treated me with that same energy. They were rude with their voice, their words were a bit sharp, they had a few petty remarks, and often times to get me to stop talking to them because they had no interest in what I was talking about. They gave one-word answers. Yes, no, I don't know. Really just not putting any thought into what I had to say. In terms of wordly correlation, when it comes to work, you could be speaking to a coworker, you could be an interviewee, or you could be the interviewer. Essentially, if you were a interviewer, let's do this for example, and you were interviewing a interviewee, and they have this resume that looks great, perfectly fine, but you want to know a bit more about the person beyond just their accomplishments in school or their other work experience. You could use these question examples and these variations to direct them to be more maybe comfortable with it, because let's be honest, everyone's a little bit nervous when they're at an interview job. I recently had one and I was terrified. Obviously, I didn't show that I was terrified, but I was terrified. And then, similar in this same moment, I'm nervous speaking to people that maybe I don't know, or have a position higher than mine. So, as an interviewer, you can make your interviewee more comfortable to give you more honest, positive, more in detail answers. When it comes to everyday life, you could really see this in relationships, friendships, or emergency scenarios. In terms of emergency scenarios, I'm going to give you an example that really is the main reason why I decided to get into this research and made me want to analyze this further. Was that my father, he works at Nike. He one time was with a whole bunch of bosses way above him, and they went to go to a Yankees game. And when you're with your bosses, you try to make everything perfect and go smoothly. The thing with the Yankee game was that it was a very important game against, I believe, the Boston Red Sox, who, if you were a Yankee fan, you hate the Boston Red Sox. So the stadium was packed. The lines were crazy, and if they waited in the line, they would have been waiting there for well over an hour. When you're with Nike CEOs, you don't want to make them wait. So he approached a worker of the more fast pass line that got you like immediately up to the box, and he said like, "Hey, I don't have any sort of pass, but I'm here with my company. Like, please." And he asked him, he spoke, like, made him comfortable. Like, how was your day? Like, I know it's crazy. These lines are crazy long. You must be super busy. I can imagine what you're going through. And he, through talking to him, making him more comfortable, he actually got him to be able to let him and his coworkers up way quicker than before everyone else, which actually impressed his bosses, which was a nice deal. In terms of relationships, many times when you're in a relationship, you often disagree, you argue a lot, and often when you're arguing, you most likely want to know from the other person's perspective, like, what were you thinking? Because you obviously disagree with what they did, but you don't know what another person is thinking or how they feel, or really the truth behind their actions. So you could use that to make them feel more comfortable and less attacked, and be more honest about their answers. Yeah, this is my resources page, and thank you for your time.
Okay, question. Glasses, hold on. What was the most important source of information you found while conducting your research for your methodology, and why was it important to your research process?
I would have to say it was a paper on the JSTOR, as you see at the bottom, strategic questioning and teaching. Although it wasn't teaching, the paper more spoke about how the different types of questions teachers ask their students could lead students to feel more comfortable answering questions in class, because as a student, there are often times that you're not sure about your answer, and you don't want to look like an idiot when you get it, if you were to get it wrong. Teachers spoke about how they made students feel more comfortable in that sort of environment, and how they created a relationship with the student beyond just a teacher, and that really helped with similarities of making the other person comfortable and seeing how they reacted based off of different types of questions, especially from a different point of view. You know, I was focusing a lot on jobs or relationships. Seeing it from a teacher's point of view really helped tie it together and view my research as more important and such, and maybe really like push forwards.
Thank you.
If you could have one ideal audience member to be present here for your presentation that you feel would benefit the most from listening to your presentation, who would that be and why? It could be someone by name or job title or profession if you don't know someone specific.
I honestly couldn't think of a specific person, so we'll go with the broad answer of a interviewer, anyone in sort of a hiring section of a job or large company foundation. As previously mentioned, this type of research is more beneficial for their type of environment when you're constantly asking questions and finding out information about your interviewees. And this could be really just beneficial to their company and many companies' hiring tactics, because oftentimes people come to and fro from company interviews feeling very nervous, very uncomfortable, worried that it would have went wrong. I know with my interview, the lady was incredibly kind. She even reassured me multiple times that I was doing a great job, and it really just made me feel more comfortable with my answers and less nervous, which in turn gave me better answers to give her. It made me feel comfortable to take a moment to think about it, to come with a more detailed answer and such. So I honestly say anyone of that sort of environment or profession would really benefit from my research information, given the lack of this area. You know, there's a lot of wordplay, but I decided I didn't want to do wordplay. Wordplay was the obvious answer for change of responses, because you know the way you speak to someone would affect it more than just how you speak to someone. But I wanted to dive more deep into how you spoke to someone.
Thank you. Does anybody have other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, I
I
forgot.
believe.
If you had 3 more weeks to work on this research question, what additional research strategies or methods would you put into practice?
In all honesty, it was a hard one. With my topic, it's very, very limited. You can't really find information based on someone's reaction, really, besides talking to them. So I couldn't have given them a survey or have them watch a video and write down a paragraph for me. The really only method I had was to speak to people, because my entire topic is all about speaking to people. But in terms of what I would have done differently in terms of speaking to people, I would have tried to find a way to record them without making them feel uncomfortable, because that would be a factor that played into their responses and changed their responses. When trying to record, just having a camera right behind me while I'm trying to speak to you, it really makes, the person who's speaking to me change their answers, whether it's for good or for bad. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, and it thus made taking notes of their responses more difficult, because, as I said, with doing something else, I'm speaking to you, and then I suddenly look away and start writing notes about what you're writing. You're going to feel maybe a bit more uncomfortable with it. You know how to break, you got to pause in your speaking, you got to break, someone's analyzing you. So honestly, I probably would have tried to include recording them so that I could speak to them and then take notes later on, maybe even more in more detailed notes. That's probably the main difference that I would make.